It's getting spooky in here.
So, Jonathan, welcome. Thank you. Tonight is all about magic.
Is that magic MAGIC, or
GIC.
is it ICK?
It can be whatever you want. So, if you have a good
Because
interpretation of
there's a
that,
difference.
then we can definitely have a go at these two interpretations. But basically, we want to look at how magic, however it's spelt, how we can use it to enhance our lives. So this is like the main thrust of this, how we can enhance our lives. So as I said, I'm here with Jonathan Chase. Thank you very much for being here, Jonathan. And would you like to introduce yourself for the first
You're
time?
very welcome. I'm Jonathan Chase, the hypnotist. Hypnotist, mentalist, mesmerist, and tarot reader, basically.
Fascinating. I'm so glad you're a tarot reader because, so many people find it woo woo. And I saw your post and
Oh, it is, but it's good
little
woo-woo.
I've got my little decks here. I have a whole bunch of them over here at the back, and I'm
Oh, we've all got a collection. Come on.
absolutely.
But when I'm talking to people, we all default to the rider
You
weights.
said you're a hypnotist. What drove you to
No, I
become?
didn't. I said
Do you not?
I'm the hypnotist.
Oh, you're the hypnotist. Okay, very cool. So, what drove you to become a stage hypnotist, and what's unique about your act?
Can I be totally honest? Money. But besides needing to earn a living, I'd been thrown out of nursing for being disabled. They didn't like it. They thought it was inappropriate for me to fall over more than the patients, so they asked me to leave. But I drifted into show business, became a stagehand, roadie. I was a drum tech. The drummer used to say, "Take them drums and put them in the van," and so it was just I wanted to do something myself, and I can't sing, can't dance, can't tell jokes, um, can't remember lines, can't play musical instruments because my disability affects my hands, um, and I can't do straightforward magic, conjuring and messing about with cards, and so that really left mind reading or hypnosis, and I found out the hypnotists earn a damn sight more money than most mind readers back in the day. And I drifted into it. I saw Robin Colville from the Grumbleweeds. Nobody remembers that. You've got to be my age to remember them. But I saw him at an after-show party hypnotising one of the roadies' girlfriends and said, "Can I do that?" And he said, "Yeah, it's just suggestion. You say this, you do that. You say this, you do that." I said, "Right, okay." And 10 minutes later, I went back to him and I said, "Right, I've got the barman on the floor. What do I do now?" So I just found I had a knack for it. Always been interested in psychology, always been interested in the magic side of magic. But hypnosis, the first stage hypnotist I saw was a guy called Robert Halpin in Glasgow when I lived in Glasgow. And I was just gobsmacked at what he could provide for people's imaginations and how he could utilize their imaginations to literally change their reality. The people say to me, "Well, I went on stage, but I don't think I was hypnotized. I remember everything I didn't." And you go, "Yeah, okay, fine." But people, when they're really hypnotized, are in full hallucination. They can feel things that don't exist. They can hear things that don't exist. They certainly see things that don't exist. They react with a reality that only they are reacting with. It's an individual thing. But then the more you look into it, the more you get into NLP, because I know you're NLP trained, and the more you get into that side of psychology, you realize that we all do that anyway. We live in a total hallucination most of the time. because our reality isn't the same as everybody else's, you know.
So true.
Mostly it is, but mostly it's shared, you know, but our interpretation of our reality is different. So I got into all that, and it was interesting, you know. And yes, you do me a lot of money. You know?
Oh, that's great. So
Uh,
how long did you do that for then? And, have you stopped doing it
I
now?
performed on stage for quite a few years, and then as my disability got worse and I started to use a wheelchair, it started to become a bit more difficult to get venues and to get in things, and you can't just get round things easy. And started to teach more, and then I taught for nearly 20 years. You know, I'm semi-retired now, getting back more into the mind reading, the mentalism, and that sort of thing. And definitely this year, really getting a lot more back into the tarot, because I sort of drifted away from that, you know.
Was it something you were aware of as a child and remembered later on that you were like, wow, yeah, I remember?
Right, I won't cringe at the word psychic, because that just means of the mind. Because everybody's got it. It's just that some people are told, "Don't be silly,"
Yeah,
and then they wander away from it, you know. But I don't think it's special. I remember, and I must have been 9. My grandma died when I was about 8, and me and my best pal Jimmy, we were in his house in the kitchen, and his mum and dad were around the club, and my mum and dad were around the club playing bingo, and so we were left on our own at 9. You know, in those days, that was nothing. You know, I mean, but so we got some bits of paper and we wrote A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and we put them all in a big circle on the table, and we got a glass and we turned it upside down. And just to make it more interesting, we turned off all the lights. We'd got a bicycle lamp, you know, off the front of a bicycle, and we hung it on a piece of string above the table to make it look, you know, we really got into it. And we're there. And Jimmy said, "Is there anybody there?" And nothing. "Is there anybody there?" Nothing happened. He said, "Is John's gran there?" Because she was like the closest thing to both of us that had passed over recently, you know.
yeah.
And that room, I'm not telling you, that room went freezing cold. We could see our breath. And then the light went out. And 5 minutes later, we were around the club with our mums and dads. And then we got into more and more into things, you know. And I was the reader. So I started reading all sorts of books and anything I can get my hands on. Because in those days, you didn't actually have to go to Amazon and buy anything. You could go to a thing called a library. And libraries have loads of free books, and you can just go in, find what you want, and read it, and not have to pay anything for it, you know. But I don't know why people don't use libraries, because bookshelves are all well and good, but libraries are wonderful places because they've got all the books you haven't got. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then I started sort of half mentioned it to my mum, and she said, "Oh well, I saw your grandma after she died." I said, "Did you?" She said, "Yeah." She was standing on the front doorstep, and she said, "It's all right, Jane." She said, "Terry will be all right in the bungalow." So you know that was an in-family message that only the family would understand. I didn't know, but my mum just shrugged that stuff off as perfectly normal, and never had any negative influences, you know, telling me it's stupid and I couldn't do it. But I drifted in and out, in and out. My showbiz mentor, um, Jay Ruffley, he was this type of guy who'd say, "Why is that grey-haired old lady with you? What's going on? What do you need help with?" You know, and you'd go, "Yeah, okay, fine, fair enough."
That was your
And he
grandma.
Probably,
Yeah.
possibly, I don't know. but he wasn't obtuse to that sort of thing. He just accepted it as a way of life. He told his son just before he died. He said, "Keep all my books," he said, "and give them to the blonde-haired kid with a slight squint in his left eye." He said, "Give me about 5 years." So Wayne is now waiting for that blonde-haired kid with a squint in the eye because he knows he's going to turn up. Jay was just totally convinced he was going to come back as a blonde-haired kid with a slight squint. Now his name was Jay Ruffley. Stage name was Sitan Marnie, which is Cherokee for crazy horse. He dressed up in his Cherokee clothing because he was a quarter-blood Cherokee. And he dressed up in his Cherokee clothing. If you'd have said Red Indian to him, he'd have smacked you. He was Cherokee. Well, Red Indians, like, in those days, was like saying white. It was like saying Native American. But, it was just, that's... Now he wanted to get his books back when he came back. I must admit, I've done over 2,000 past life regressions. And I don't call them regressions, I call them recall. Regression means going back to the event, and you can't do that. I mean, if you're sitting on a chair in front of me and I hypnotize you and you start recalling a past life, you are remembering it. You're not reliving it. If you were 5'6" in a previous existence, you're not, and you're 6'1" now, you're not going to shrink.
No.
You know what I mean? But I think a lot of people miss their past experience because it's not, they don't feel like they're there. They feel like they're remembering something. And they say, "Oh, I'm just remembering this." Well, yeah, you remember last Tuesday. You don't go back to it.
Wondering what your thoughts are about past life injuries. Do they have an echo in this life, do you think?
Total coincidence.
You think,
We human beings are wonderful. We are absolutely wonderful at jumping on coincidence and giving it way more value than it's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Just a total coincidence, And one could argue if you went through your experience with hypnosis after that event, that you could easily have tied the two events together. Your subconscious mind likes to do things like that. Whether that's true or not, we'll never know unless you know name, rank, and serial number. And, that's rare. When I do a past life party, I usually do very small groups and try and do everybody in the room if I can. And it is a party. It's take it as serious as it needs to be, but don't say, right, okay, I'm going to change my life because of this experience, because that would just be damn silly. I call it, in most of my books when I've mentioned it, I call it hypnotic tourism. It's a trip back into an event that may have happened. I'm not saying it might not have coloured the way you think, but I don't think that I'm a Wolverhampton Wanderers supporter, and we had a manager who will not be named because he's manager of England as well. And he once in an interview, God knows why he said it, but he said that he thought that all people with disabilities were disabled because they'd been bad in a past life.
Glenn Hoddle.
And this was their punishment. And he got sacked summarily. But I don't think that if there's an essence of life that travels and continues and has more than one experience, I don't think that your last experience has much to do with this experience, because this experience, you are who you are. You're born who you are. You're born the sex you are. you're born to the parents you are, you're born in the place you are, and that's going to have a lot more a lot more say in where you go and what you do and how you do it. You know,
Yeah.
you might have a slight personality. I did a young lad once, and he went back to Victoria in London, and he was being chased, and he was stopped in an alley, and he was kicked and beaten to death. He went through the death experience, and when he came back to the room, he said, "Yep, that explains everything." He said, "I'm going to tell my dad I'm gay tonight." Now, whether he was running through, psychologists would say, "Oh, well, he was running through a pattern because he'd got that on his mind. Should he tell his dad? Shouldn't he tell his dad?" And he went through that, and he created that, or maybe he experienced that. I don't think that because he remembered being gay in one life, he'd make him gay in another life. I think he was just gay, and that's the way it worked out. But
the point was, it made him.
Sometimes you get those, but those really are the exception. Sometimes you get that with you. That's really the exception. I think what's happening there, Gina, is this. You have it in your head that if you're hypnotized and go through this experience, something will happen at the end of it. So something did. Yeah. And
like I got shot in the trenches, you mean? That was my end.
No, you stop crying. It wasn't the actual. It wasn't the actual experience. It wasn't the actual technique used or anything like that. But because something happened, your mind said, right, something's happened, so that must be fixed.